Have you ever seen a man walk into a room, older, quiet, calm, and somehow the energy shifts? He's not loud. He's not wearing anything flashy. He's not even trying. But people notice, especially younger women. They lean in. They smile. They feel something they can't quite explain. It's not about status. It's not about looks. It's presence. That unshakable stillness that says, I've lived, I've lost, and I'm not here to prove anything. If you're in your kirks, 50-second or 60-second, this might be the first time someone tells you this. You're not past your prime. You're just now stepping into it. Because attention comes easy to youth, but depth, composure, and masculine calm, that's what makes you unforgettable. In this video, we're breaking down 7 powerful strategies older men use to naturally attract younger women without chasing, without pretending, and without saying a single fake word. These are not tricks. They're real, psychological tactics, sharpened by the discipline of Stoicism. They don't impress. They pull. You'll learn how to speak less, but say far more. How to create energy in a room without making noise. And most of all, how to let your experience, your years, your inner peace, do the talking for you. But a quick warning, this video isn't for men chasing validation. It's for those ready to own their silence, own their presence, own their power. If that's you, you're in the right place. Subscribe now if you're ready to be remembered for how you carry yourself, not for how hard you try. And drop this in the comments. I move with presence. Number 1, own your age. Own your age. It's not a weakness. It's your edge. Stop shrinking it. Stop disguising it. Don't trade it for trendiness. Your age isn't a liability. It's a signal. It tells the world you've lived. You've lost. You've learned. Most older men lose ground, not because of what they say, but how they carry their years. They try to be young again, laughing too loud, talking too fast, chasing trends that don't fit. But that energy, it reeks of insecurity, and younger women feel it instantly. What truly draws her in is something quieter, a kind of presence, a stillness. A man who walks into a room and doesn't need to explain himself. His posture speaks before he does. His eyes don't dart around, they observe. He's not looking for validation. He's already chosen himself. You don't win her over by competing with boys. You've already outgrown that game. You win her by being the calm after the storm, the one who's been tested and didn't fall apart. She's not seeking someone who mirrors her youth. She's drawn to the man who holds his past with quiet strength, who listens more than he speaks, who speaks slowly and means every word. Your age isn't baggage, it's armor. Wear it. Dress like you. Respect yourself. Move like a man who doesn't rush. Smile like time is on your side, because she's not watching to see how young you act. She's watching to feel how solid you are. That's the difference. When you truly own your years, you stop chasing women because you understand now. You're not too old. You're finally ready. If that hits, type it in the comments. I own this. Number 2, don't chase her beauty. See through it. You see a beautiful woman, and suddenly, your energy shifts. Your voice changes. You adjust your posture. You try to be more pleasant, more noticeable, because deep down, you want her to approve. But the truth is, the moment you start chasing her beauty, you become invisible. Not because admiration is wrong, but because desperation is loud and she can hear it. Especially younger women, they've been pursued for their looks since their teens. Compliments don't surprise them. Flirting doesn't shake them. They've heard it all. So when you react like every other man, overly eager, overly impressed, you disappear into the crowd. She doesn't want another man hypnotized by her face. She wants a man who sees the surface, but looks beyond it. A man who isn't shaken, who holds his ground, who notices, but doesn't chase. That's rare. That's powerful. Think about the men who command respect. They don't compliment every woman. They observe. They speak little. And when they praise, it lands because it's real, measured, earned. When you chase beauty, you surrender your power. You become one of many. But when you respect her beauty without being owned by it, you become unforgettable. You stop treating her like a trophy and start treating her like a human. That's the shift from boys to men. She's not craving another fan. She's craving someone who pays attention to her silence, her fears, her mind. And when you compliment her thoughts instead of her makeup, you confuse her in the best way. Now you stand out. Because while others talk too much, you see too much. And here's where Stoicism enters. Control what's yours. You don't own her face or her response, but you do own your focus, your attention, your energy. Use it wisely. Next time she looks amazing, don't shrink. Don't stutter. Stay steady. Compliment what no one else sees, then return to your stillness. Let her wonder. Let her lean in. Because while other men get lost in her appearance, you're the one who actually saw her. If that hits home, write it below. I see deeper. Number 3, dominate the room without saying a word. You walk into the room. No words. No smile for show. No need to be seen. Yet they notice you, especially her. Why? Because your silence speaks louder than most men's voices. It's not your height. It's not your style. It's your energy still. Grounded. Undeniable. Most men make noise without saying anything. They fidget. They force eye contact. They laugh too loud. They try too hard to be seen. And in doing so, become invisible. But the man who truly owns the room, he doesn't seek attention. He doesn't shrink or perform. He's just there, present, rooted, unmoved. He walks with intention, not urgency. He sits like the space belongs to him. He waits before speaking. And when he does, it lands. Women feel that it doesn't just attract them, it intrigues them. Who is he? Why doesn't he need anyone's approval? That's the power of quiet control. It's not about being louder than other men. It's about being louder than your own impulses. This is what Stoicism teaches. To manage your reactions, your attention, your breath. And when you do, people feel you before they hear you. You don't need wealth or status. You need presence. And presence is built in silence, through discipline, through comfort in stillness. You don't chase the spotlight. You let it come to you. Not because you demand it, but because you've earned it by not needing it. Younger women notice this more than anyone. They're surrounded by chaos, noise, performance. But when you walk in calm, you break that pattern. You're not performing. You're anchoring the space. Let your posture speak. Let your stillness unsettle what's fake. Let your silence command what noise can't, because when you finally speak, they'll already be listening. If that's the kind of man you're becoming, write this below. I move quiet. Number 4, take the lead. Stop asking for permission. You're out on a date. She looks at you and says, "What do you want to do?" And instead of answering, "You hesitate," you ask her back. You think you're being respectful, polite, but to her you just gave up the wheel. In that tiny pause, the one where you hand over control, you don't seem kind. You seem uncertain. And here's the truth, she's not looking for someone to follow her lead. Especially not a younger woman. She's looking for a man who already knows where he's going and simply invites her along for the ride. Taking the lead doesn't mean dominating her. It means having a plan, having presence, and making decisions without waiting for her to approve them. It means saying, "I made us a reservation here," instead of, "Do you want to eat here?" It's walking on the street side without announcing it. It's guiding her through a crowd with calm, silent confidence. It's choosing the table by the window, not because she asked you to, but because you trust your own sense of what's best. When you stop asking for permission, everything shifts. You stop outsourcing your confidence. You start standing in it. Women don't just hear your words, they feel your direction. And it's that quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to yell, that makes her feel safe enough to follow. She notices when you hesitate. She also notices when you don't. The man who leads isn't loud. He's grounded. He adapts when plans fall apart. He keeps his frame when emotions run high. And when the room gets tense, he doesn't flinch. That's Stoicism in motion. You don't wait for approval to act like a man. You become one by stepping forward. Now, if this message hits something inside you, drop it in the comments. I lead now. And if you're ready to stop asking for permission, subscribe now. What's coming next will change the way you carry every moment with her. Number 5, create tension, not attention. Tension is the invisible thread that draws her in, not nose, not flattery, not trying to be the loudest man in the room. While most men are busy showing off, trying to win approval with jokes or gestures, the man who understands tension knows it's not about being seen. It's about being felt, because attraction built on attention fades fast. But tension lingers. It sits in the space between your words. It hums in the silence after a slow smile. It breathes in the second you don't reply immediately. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about not giving yourself away too quickly. It's about letting her feel the gravity of your presence without trying to prove anything. Imagine sitting across from her. You're calm, unmoved. You don't rush to fill the silence. You let it stretch naturally. And in that space, she starts to lean in, emotionally, mentally, even physically. Why? Because you've given her room to feel the moment, to feel you. This is rare. Most men chase. You don't. You guide the energy. You withhold, not to manipulate, but to lead. That's the difference. You're not cold. You're composed. You're not ignoring her. You're inviting her slowly into your rhythm. And that, my friend, is the foundation of tension. It's the art of less reacting, less explaining, less noise, more weight, more presence. She says something provocative. You don't flinch. She waits for your reaction. You pause, breathe, and answer with calm clarity. That restraint magnetic. Stoicism teaches us to remain centered, especially when things get emotional. And tension is the physical expression of that stillness. It's in your eye contact. It's in your timing. It's in your decision not to chase the moment, but to shape it. So the next time you sit with her, remember, you don't need fireworks. You just need space. And when that space is filled with unshakable energy, she feels it. One touch, one glance, donne right. It echoes in her memory long after you're gone. If you're done performing and ready to master the energy that makes her lean in, drop this in the comments. I build tension. And don't go anywhere. What's coming next will teach you how to make her feel you without even touching her. Number 6, talk less. Tell stories. Make her imagine. You don't need more words. You need better ones. Most men think silence on a date is failure, so they fill it. Facts, jokes, opinions, updates, and in doing so, they drown out the very thing that creates desire, space. Space for her to feel something, to imagine. You see, it's not the quantity of words that captures a woman's interest, it's the quality of the moment you create between them. Let me paint the picture. You're sitting at a bar. She asks, "So, what do you do?" The average guy replies, "I'm in finance." Flat. Done. End of intrigue. But the man who understands emotional attraction, he grins, leans in slightly, and says, "Well, let me tell you about the day I lost a briefcase, outran a pigeon, and ended up in a client's wedding photos." She laughs. She leans in. She wants more. That's the power of story. It's not about performance. It's about presence. You're not listing accomplishments. You're inviting her into a world. A good story activates her imagination. She sees the moment, feels the tension, smells the air, and starts placing herself in the scene. And when that happens, she's no longer just listening, she's emotionally involved. Now here's the trick most men miss. The story doesn't need to be epic. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be emotionally textured. Maybe it's a moment when you failed, or a time you took a risk, or the lesson you learned after trusting the wrong person. You don't flood her with information. You plant a seed, then let the silence water it. Let her ask questions. Let her imagination connect the dots. Curiosity builds faster than clarity. And when you do speak, speak like a man who's lived, not just existed. This is emotional maturity in action. This is what separates you from surface-level guys. You're not speaking to impress. You're speaking to resonate. Stoicism teaches us this. Every word is a choice. Either you speak to bring presence, or you speak to fill a void. Choose the former, because when you hold space with your energy, when your pauses carry more tension than your paragraphs, she feels something rare, depth. And here's the beautiful part. When she leaves, she won't remember everything you said, but she'll remember how she felt. That moment she leaned in, that flicker of imagination, that untold story lingering between your words. So next time, don't speak to fill time. Speak to create tension. Tell stories that don't just entertain, but invite her in. And if this speaks to the man you're becoming, say it with confidence in the comments. I speak less. Number 7, let her chase the calm inside you. There's a reason she keeps thinking about you, even when the night was simple. Even when nothing big happened. It wasn't the charm. It wasn't your cologne. It was the feeling she had sitting across from you. Stillness, security, sanity. In a world addicted to noise, where dopamine rules, where energy is fast and messy, you stood out because you didn't flinch. You didn't try to impress. You didn't rush to fill the gaps. You were just calm. And that calm, that's what haunts her in the best way. Not because you pretended to be Zen, but because you radiated a quiet confidence born from real experience, from going through storms and not needing to talk about them. That's what Stoicism teaches: control without suppression, emotion without collapse. You didn't overshare. You didn't mirror her chaos. You didn't compete with her mood swings. You were grounded, steady, still, and women, especially younger women, notice that they're used to boys who rise and fall with every emotion, used to men who react too fast, talk too much, or disappear under pressure. But you became the emotional anchor in the room. Not by trying, by being. You walked slower, spoke less, held eye contact without blinking too hard. You weren't analyzing the room, you were shaping it. This is rare, because most men aren't calm. They're anxious and hiding it under noise. But you've trained yourself in breath, in patience, in perspective. So when she leans into your space, she's chasing more than your voice. She's chasing the safety your presence creates. And here's what you don't do. You don't tell her you're calm. You don't explain your silence. You let it speak for itself. When she shares drama, you listen without matching it. When tension rises, you stay still. That presence is magnetic. It makes her feel like she can be soft without collapsing, like she can rest in your energy without needing to prove herself. Because she's not looking for perfection, she's looking for regulation. She wants a man who doesn't lose himself when life shakes. She wants stability, not performance. And when you master this, you become the gravity in the room. She orbits around it because it feels real. It feels earned. It feels like home. If this message speaks to the man you're becoming, say it with intent in the comments. I am calm. Number 8, touch with your vibe before your hands. Before your hand ever reaches for hers, she's already felt your presence or she hasn't. Real touch begins long before physical contact. It starts with energy, with the way your presence enters the space and the way your vibe lingers in silence. Most men rush this moment. They mistake touch for contact, believing desire is triggered by action, so they lean in too fast, too obvious, too eager. But women, especially younger women, don't just feel you through touch. They feel you through attention, presence, and restraint. She reads the way you look at her, not with hunger, but with depth. She notices the pace of your movement, the steadiness of your breathing, the ease in your posture. If your presence doesn't speak before your hands do, your touch will never land the way you hope. Here's the truth. The most magnetic men don't chase the moment, they let it build. They don't break tension, they become the tension. A glance that holds an extra beat, a pause between words, a quiet confidence in stillness. These things say more than touch ever could. Think of it like music. You don't begin a song with its loudest note. You build. You create rhythm, contrast, and space. That's what creates emotional resonance. Stoicism teaches you to master yourself, not suppress your desire, but direct it. That's what women feel: direction, not aggression, not performance, but presence with intention. When you radiate calm confidence, you become the kind of man she remembers without knowing why. You don't force connection, you invite it. You don't grab, you guide. You don't impress, you remain. When the moment finally calls for touch, it doesn't feel like escalation. It feels like alignment. like the natural continuation of energy that's already been building, a subtle touch on the lower back. A hand placed with intention. She feels it not just in her body, but in her nervous system because you've already spoken to it. That's the secret. Touch her mind before her skin. Let her imagination dance before her fingers do. If you're ready to lead with presence instead of pressure, say this in the comments. I touch without touching. Don't go anywhere. What's coming next will show you how true power begins, not in what you take from the world, but in what you hold within. Number 9. Don't fill the silence. Own it. Most men fear silence. They think if a woman goes quiet for too long, something's wrong, that they need to jump in, entertain, explain, or keep the conversation alive. But here's the truth. Silence isn't awkward unless you make it awkward. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of depth. When you rush to fill every pause, you reveal your anxiety. When you talk too much, she feels you chasing comfort instead of creating it. But when you can sit with the quiet hold a moment without scrambling for words, you tell her something much deeper, that you're comfortable with yourself. And that comfort, that presence, it's magnetic. Because most men don't have it. They panic in the silence. They over-explain. They blurt out jokes or facts to kill the quiet. But a man who owns silence doesn't do any of that. He lets the stillness breathe. He gives her space to feel his energy instead of his noise. And in that space, something powerful happens. Her mind starts wandering. Her heart starts tuning in. Because silence doesn't weaken attraction, it intensifies it. It builds tension. It invites her into your calm. You're not trying to impress her. You're not flooding her with stories or one-liners. You're letting her experience who you are without needing to sell yourself. Think about the most charismatic men you've seen. They speak slowly. They don't rush. They pause. They leave room between their words. And when they do speak, every sentence lands with weight. That's presence. That's gravity. And women, especially younger women, feel it instantly. They're used to the fast-talking, validation-seeking types. So when they meet a man who can sit with silence, he stands out. He becomes a mystery. Stoicism calls this ataraxia, inner calm, the kind that isn't shaken by external noise. You don't perform. You don't plead. You just exist fully, steadily, and she feels it more than anything you could say. Imagine this. You're on a date. She pauses mid-conversation. You don't rush to fill the gap. You sip your drink. Hold her gaze. Maybe you smile. That moment, that stillness, it says more than a monologue ever could. You're not controlled by the room. You set the tone for it. You don't chase her energy. You invite her into yours. Even in conflict, silence is your ally. When she gets emotional or reactive, you don't raise your voice. You don't flinch. You breathe. You wait. And when you do respond, you do it with clarity, not chaos. That restraint isn't weakness. It's dominance over yourself. And that kind of restraint creates contrast. Contrast builds curiosity. Curiosity builds connection. Because what she truly wants isn't a man who performs, it's a man who's rooted. A man who knows that silence isn't emptiness. It's presence in its purest form. So don't run from the quiet. Don't hide behind words. Lean into the pause. Let her feel it. Let her wander. And when you finally speak, make it land. Make it matter. That's how you flip the script. You stop chasing attention and start commanding it. If this is the kind of man you're becoming, drop it in the comments. I hold silence. Number 10. Kiss when it's quiet and she's waiting. The most powerful kiss doesn't start with a pickup line. It doesn't follow a clever joke or a rehearsed compliment. It begins in silence. That silence where words fade and energy speaks. She's not pulling back. She's not checking her phone. She's right there, present, still, watching you. That's when it happens. See, most men miss this moment. They rush. They talk over it. They try to explain it or joke their way through it. But that ruins the magic. Because a real kiss isn't about action, it's about awareness. Before your lips ever move, you've already laid the foundation. You've created safety, presence, and emotional space. You've made her feel seen, heard, felt. You weren't trying to impress. You weren't performing. You were simply there with her. And that kind of presence builds anticipation. That quiet moment is charged not because of words, but because of what wasn't said. You didn't interrupt the stillness. You let it grow. You let her feel it too. And when she begins to breathe a little slower, when she leans in just slightly, when her voice softens and she holds your gaze, that's the green light. Not the kind you ask permission for, but the kind that's earned through emotional clarity. Because here's what most men don't realize. The kiss isn't taken, it's received. It's invited, and it's not about waiting for the perfect line or making a bold move. It's about noticing the cues, her pace, her body language, the rhythm of the moment. This isn't about technique. It's not about alpha male bravado. It's about emotional timing. It's about being attuned not to what you want, but to what she's feeling. When you kiss in that silence, it's not rushed. It's not aggressive. It's a release of all the tension you've let build slowly, patiently, intentionally. Because every look you've shared, every pause you didn't fill, every moment you let her speak, that's what leads to this. She won't remember the words you said, but she'll remember how the silence before the kiss made her feel, and that's the Stoic truth. Power is not in taking, it's in waiting. It's in being grounded enough to not force anything, to hold back, not from fear, but from mastery. That kiss, in that quiet space, is not an isolated act. It's the echo of your restraint, your presence, your emotional stability. You weren't chasing. You weren't trying to get something from her. You simply were. And that's what she'll tell her friends about. Not that you kissed her, but how you made her want to be kissed. How you didn't rush. How you didn't push. How you knew the moment, not because you were clever, but because you were in tune. So next time you're with her, and the moment grows quiet, don't fill it. Don't rush it. Don't explain it. Let it hang in the air. Let her wonder. Let her lean. And then, if the energy's right, move with calm, with clarity, with care. That's not game. That's presence. If that's the kind of man you're becoming, drop this in the comments. I kiss with presence. And stay tuned, because what comes next isn't about getting the girl. It's about becoming the man who doesn't need to chase because his presence draws everything in. This is just the beginning. Every day, we share insights for men who move with purpose, who lead with quiet strength, and seek more than attention from women. They seek self-mastery. If today's message spoke to something in you, don't just let it fade. Take what you've learned and apply it with discipline, with clarity, with calm. And if you're ready to keep growing mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, this channel is your space. No noisy, no gimmicks, just real tools for becoming the kind of man women remember and men respect. Like this video if it resonated, subscribe to the Stoic Spirit and turn on the bell. Because what's coming next will shift how you move in every relationship.